to Cinema Wellman. I'm your host, David, and since time stands still for no one, another month is over, and I'm here to report on the best and worst films we screened here in the past 30 days. I want to begin by mentioning that I watched Spice World last month in preparation for our upcoming City Spotlight London episode, and it was terrible. But I'm not going to include it on today's worst list since it really wasn't their fault and I don't want to pick on them. It was hastily made without anything resembling a story, but none of that was their fault. I'm not here to be mean to the Spice Girls. However, we do have a movie on our worst list this month that we will be kind of mean to because it was just abysmal. Just because it's the only movie on the worst list does not mean it's getting the Roadhouse treatment. It was just a pretty good movie month, and there weren't that many bad films to talk about. I guess that's a good thing. It was another low total for a month at Cinema Wellman, but the Euro soccer tournament's on, so I can't be held responsible for the amount of new movies that I watch. So let's go with the worst in June. From 2020, The Last Days of American Crime, not rated R. 148 minutes. IMDb gives it a 3.8. Directed by Olivier Megaton. Get a real name. This doesn't happen to me often, but I was totally hoodwinked, bamboozled, and hornswoggled by the trailer for this movie. I'll begin with IMDb because the plot is so stupid, I'll have them give it a shot. Quote, in the not-too-distant future, I love that, as a final response to terrorism and crime, the U.S. government plans to broadcast a signal making it impossible for anyone to knowingly commit unlawful acts. So, giving off kind of a Purge vibe, yes? I thought the same thing, and the trailer supports this as well. Now, those Purge films were extremely problematic, and most were pure trash, but at least they attempted a story. This was a boring 148 minutes that seemed like 6 hours. Most of the plot is disseminated using news position, as my friends at CinemaSins call it. You can't have fake news reporters tell 80% of your story via conveniently placed monitors and televisions all over the place. It's really just a bad, nonsensical heist movie with a story that could have been told in 80 minutes. It's certainly not worth 148 minutes of your time. We watched Equinox, which was also really bad. Got a bomb in our archives. But it was the debut film of Frank Bonner, Herb Tarlick from the great TV show W.K.R.P. in Cincinnati. But that was its high point. It was originally a student film, and the creatures are obviously made out of clay, which made me giggle, but it was still better than Roadhouse. Let's move on to the good stuff. The best of the month of June here at Cinema Wellman will begin with 1973's The Outfit, rated PG, 103 minutes. IMDb says 7.0, directed by John Flynn. When I saw that TCM was showing this and I read a little bit about it, my first thought was, how the hell have I not seen this film? IMDb, quote, Earl Macklin, played by Robert Duvall, robs a bank owned by the mob, serves his prison time, and is released only to start a private war against the crime outfit that owned the bank, end quote. A man versus the syndicate revenge film, and I hadn't seen it? How is that possible? I'm a huge fan of the one-man army genre. Think Thief, White Line Fever, The Transporter, Commando, Taken, etc. I love these movies for many reasons, and one is the overabundance of henchmen that our hero will dispatch before meeting up with and ultimately killing the kingpin of the entire outfit. Henchmen bonus points for those who tell the good guy they, quote, have no idea who they're messing with, end quote, before they get killed. Since The Outfit was made in 1973, we get guns with silencers, serious car chases involving cars with rocking suspensions, and a lot of pistol whipping. This is a gritty 70s action flick with a very capable supporting cast, including Karen Black, we love Karen Black, Joe Don Baker, and Robert Ryan as the kingpin of the outfit. And the film debut of Joanna Cassidy, even though she appeared as an uncredited party guest in Bullet. Joanna does not have her snake in this film, but she is the kingpin's mall. Next, from 2024, we have If, rated PG, 104 minutes. IMDb says 6.7, and directed by, you might know him, John Krasinski. Just a couple of episodes ago, I made a remark about Ryan Gosling and Dakota's friend Ryan being the only two Ryans. This was a very thinly veiled shot at Ryan Reynolds, who I had no use for at the time of that comment. I like to think that I'm the type of person who admits when they're wrong, so I was wrong. I still hate Deadpool and those phone commercials, and I won't root for his soccer team, but I no longer have a Ryan Reynolds issue. He's not close to becoming an official FOCW, but my issue with him has been resolved thanks to John Krasinski and If. The title can be pronounced like the word if, or as initials IF, standing for Imaginary Friend. Krasinski wrote, directed, and also has a small part in this delightful look at imaginary friends and what happens to them when they are no longer needed by their young companions. I never had an imaginary friend, which kind of surprises me. I've also never worn a dress, which also kind of surprises me. I guess there's still time for both. No spoiler here at all, but I cried during If. more than a couple times, so you know it's meant to tug at those heartstrings. Kaylee Fleming plays B, a young girl going through a difficult time in her life with her widower dad, played by Krasinski. B starts to see odd creatures here and there, those are the ifs, and attempts to get to the bottom of it. Reynolds is along to help her with the process and act as a kind of if wrangler. The ifs themselves are absolutely tremendous, and Krasinski assembled an amazing group to lend their voices to this delightful group of animated characters. I mean, Steve Carell, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Louis Gossett Jr., Awkwafina, Emily Blunt. How'd Krasinski get her? George Clooney, Bradley Cooper, Matt Damon, Bill Hader, Richard Jenkins, Keegan-Michael Key, Blake Lively, Sam Rockwell, Maya Rudolph, Amy Schumer, Jon Stewart, and Brad Pitt, kind of. What a phenomenal group lending their voice talents to help bring these ifs to life. There's a sweet message behind it all. There's a twist that I saw coming, but it didn't hurt my enjoyment of the movie, and it was just a good time. And I'm sorry, Ryan. Next, we have Safe Haven from 2013. Rated PG-13, 115 minutes. IMDb says 6.7. Directed by Lasse Hallström. I love it when someone starts a sentence directed at me that begins with, have you seen, and I perk up like a puppy hearing a fire engine. A work conversation a couple of weeks ago centered on quote-unquote romantic movies that weren't classified as rom-coms. Not a fan, as you may know. I was mentioning to the group how I tend to stay away from rom-coms, but I have no problem with other genres that romance sneaks into. That's when my boss, Renee, looked at me and said, have you seen Safe Haven? The answer was no, so I made it happen that very night. One of the first things I noticed that Josh Duhamel was one of the leads, and I have no use for Josh Duhamel, but since Ryan Reynolds was given another chance, why not Josh Duhamel? And I was wrong again. Not that I like him now, but he was fine in this, and he didn't ruin it, and he didn't subtract from it in any way, so that's good. Here's IMDb. Quote, a young woman, played by Julianne Hough, with a mysterious past, lands in Southport, North Carolina, where her bond with a widower forces her to confront the dark secret that haunts her. There's a lot of things I liked about Safe Haven, and one of them was how Hough's mysterious past is unveiled to us slowly, keeping the suspense moving along. We are shown a bit of the event that has her on the run, but we're not quite sure what actually happened. What we do know is that she's being pursued by the law. And Southport, North Carolina looks wonderful. I've always thought I would love living in a really small town. Yeah, everybody knows everybody else and their business, but I don't have any business, so I don't really care. Who knows it? Duhamel's movie children are decent performers, especially his daughter, who is extremely likable. Safe Haven is a mystery thriller, so no spoilers here. It did keep me guessing up until almost the very end, when I think I got a bit of a twist a little early, but I wasn't positive, so I'm not giving myself official credit, and it didn't hurt my enjoyment of the film. Lasse Hallström directed, and he certainly knows his way around a movie. I was pleasantly surprised by this romantic thriller. Not all romance movies need to be comedies. And that brings us to our top film screened during the month of June. And what a surprise from 2024. It's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Rated R, 148 minutes, just like that crime movie. IMDb says 7.9, directed by George Miller. So, no real surprise seeing a Mad Max movie making the best of the month here at Cinema Wellman. It's as surprising as me enjoying Godzilla Minus One and including that in a best list. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is the fifth Mad Max movie made by the great George Miller, and I'm not here to say it's the best of the five, but it's certainly worthy of debate. This entry in the Mad Max saga is truly epic. At 148 minutes, it's the longest in the series, and I'm not sure how long the overall shoot was, but there's an action sequence in this movie that took 78 days to film. Mad Max Fury Road had a very small amount of computer enhancements, about 2,000, while this film has over 20,000 computer enhancements, but it all still looks very real. One of the major enhancements was to the sky for that chase sequence that took 78 days to film. You may have 78 different skies if you're filming on 78 different days. So what they did was they chose the best sky and used a computer to insert that best sky into all of the shots for that entire sequence. So CGI, but a lot of it wasn't used in the usual manner. In the usual manner for one of these films, the vehicles were totally out of control. The mishmash of recognizable cars and trucks transformed as a VW microbus into nightmarish vehicles that reminded me a little of the animals in Poor Things. Since this is a prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, there's no Charlize Theron as Furiosa, unfortunately. She was absolutely amazing in that role. Younger Furiosa is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who doesn't even appear until an hour into the movie because Miller was prequeling in the prequel and needed another younger actress to pull that off. That also involved CGI as they morphed Taylor-Joy's face with that of the much younger actress playing Furiosa, and it was very effective. Taylor-Joy has only about 30 lines of dialogue in the entire movie. She thought that would make this role easier for her, but she later said it made it much more difficult than she ever imagined. She said that she'd go weeks without shooting a scene in which she spoke, and it was extremely stressful. Miller thinks dialogue slows movies down, so he pared it down big time here. He wanted Taylor-Joy to act with her eyes, not her voice, and she does a tremendous job. Again, no spoilers, but this is one impressive film, and the attention to detail pays off. The script for this film was completed before filming began on Mad Max Fury Road. Since he wanted to tell Furiosa's story in the form of a prequel, Miller wanted to make sure that the story was cohesive. That's why this script was finished before Fury Road was shot in 2015. It's also why all of this makes sense. Miller has another story in the Mad Max saga ready to go if this was successful, and I think it was. It's titled The Wasteland, and I'm sure the script has already been written, if I know George. Well, that is a wrap from here at Cinema Wellman for our best and worst of the month of June. We hope you join us next week for it's a milestone episode. It's the next in our City Spotlight series as we visit London. At the same time, Dakota and Lucas are visiting London. And it's also our 100th episode, believe it or not. We thank you if you've been here for all 99 so far, or if this one was your first. Join us next week for London Calling, and until then, take care.